When we're working on the idea of personal growth, we tend to often work with the idea that personal growth is something like this. We often like the idea of standardized models of growth. We say that, say, at age 13, we learn so and so skills of independence, and at 18, we start to become more pragmatic. And at 25, we start achieving excellence at work. And then at 35, that's when we tend to normally flourish in our business and in entrepreneurship and things like that. But actually, this can vary. I found that if you are an athlete, for example, you tend to typically experience most of your success, perhaps up to age 25, between 13 to 25. But when you're an author or knowledge worker, success tends to happen often far beyond 35 because it takes longer to simply achieve something in that area. The other problem, though, is in this area, we only focus on the idea of achievement. When do you hit your life's work? When do you become considered individuated? When are you considered to be self-actualized? But isn't it more that growth is like a circle? So with the idea here that you can grow in many different dimensions. Say this was, for example, the social dimension of having many friends and having deep and good and rewarding friendships, real and authentic friendships, right? And say that this was more of your personal life, having personal hobbies and interests, having your own personality, having your own sense of who you are, taking time to journal, being comfortable in yourself and who you are, and also being able to enjoy your own alone time. And what if you said that this, for example, was the professional aspect of life, like your success at work? And what if you said this was your recreational side, like your ability to have fun and to enjoy life and to go with the flow and to really just experience and take in all those things? Now, you could grow in different areas. Say that when you started out, you were a very private person and you had a very strong sense of your private life. So you were quite developed in this angle. And then you tend to struggle in professional aspects and you tend to have difficulty in social aspects, but you were quite fun and quite engaged. So you had quite a range here. This was you when you were 13, right? Then let's say that when you turned 18, you had this social flourishing. Many people have this, they start out quite private, they're quite quiet, but then when they start hitting university and, going beyond that, they start really making a lot of friends and they start really opening up. While perhaps at that point, your private life started to diminish a bit and you found less time for yourself and you became a little bit more likely to compromise yourself for the sake of fitting in. Now, let's imagine that you had a difficult time getting into business and you spent a lot of time partying in the university and you were really fun-loving and so on, but you really found it difficult to get into the job market until perhaps you turned 35. That's when you started to really prioritize work. And this is when you really went all in for work. You started setting more and more goals. You became much more disciplined and you became a lot more focused and you met a lot of success. Coworkers were starting to be impressed with you and what you did. And your boss noticed you and maybe you even at some point went and pursued your own business. Growth can happen in so many different ways. So why are we trying to think that growth is linear? It's also important to recognize that we need more than one thing to be happy. People that tend to exclusively focus on professional goals tend to end up with a lot of mental health struggles as they grow older. And this can really awaken the shadow. A lack of play can really kill your joy in life and in what you do. And it might make you too serious and it might make you become a bit of a workaholic. And that might cause you to have issues in working life, perhaps because you don't play enough and you work too hard you feel often unrewarded, even though you work really hard. Your bosses don't really give you the acknowledgement you feel you should have get, and your coworkers don't like you as much as you think they should, and so on. And this could be because you're struggling to develop other sides of yourself, right? But most importantly, you should ask yourself, am I happy? Am I enjoying this? Am I having fun doing this? That's a question we should be doing all the time. This is why I journal so much. I journal every single day. I journal about everything that I feel, everything that I think, everything that comes up. I think that you should really acknowledge the shadow and give voice to doubts that you have and uncertainties that you have and fears that you have, because it's a lot easier to be brave when you know what you're afraid of. And it's a lot more likely to show cowardice when you can't even name what you're afraid of, right? And I think that when we think about happiness and we think about how we want to grow, what kind of people we want to be, I think we should try and come up with areas. And this is why I tend to talk about these 8 areas of life: personal, social, recreational, professional. But beyond that, I also tend to think about things like physical health. I go to the gym about 3 times a week, and I like to get my 10,000 steps in. And since the last few years, I spend often hours outside because I need the sunlight. I need to be connected to nature, and that's a human need, I think. It's something we all need. And then you have the intellectual needs, the needs for achievement, to solve problems, to feel capable, to feel competent. Or on the other hand, we have the emotional needs, and I tend to often connect them to the creative. I mean, creative here in the sense of self-expression, of doing art, playing music, of engaging in do-it-yourself work or beauty and aesthetics. It's often the things that allow your emotions to really come out, because emotions don't often take the form of words. They can't usually be articulated using logic, but they can be articulated using paint. And of course, on the other hand, you have the more mental, imaginative, and spiritual aspects of life. This is often what we tend to discuss when we talk about intuition, right? So every single human being needs these 8 things to be and live a happy life. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, often people would paint this kind of a ladder, right? And they would say that, on the first end, you'd have, for example, the physical health, and then you'd have things like security, then you'd have belonging, you'd have esteem, and then you'd have actualization. And then beyond that, Maslow, after he got famous, he kept working and he kept adding new levels onto it, because he couldn't really just say that that's it, that's enough. Like, he started adding on that you also need, he said that after this, that's when you experience your second self. That's when you start living out of a feeling of abundance, where from here you came from a sense of deficiency. He said that, when we start out growing, we have this belief that we lack something and we're trying to achieve it. We're trying to get security. We're trying to get belonging. We're trying to get approval from other people for the good that we do. But when you come to this level, you operate from a feeling of abundance. You already realize how much you got and how blessed you are and how lucky you are. And you realize that, everything that you got because of your friends, your family, and all the people around you that have supported you, your mentors, the people you watch on YouTube, the people books you read. All those things just fill you with impressions and beauty and amazing sights and experiences and really fascinating thoughts. And, we are blessed to have this. We live in a state of abundance, but we are told by the media that we operate from a state of deficit. We don't have enough. We need more. That's what the media says. That's what the advertisement said, right? But when you look around you, you go out in nature, you realize, wow, I'm surrounded with abundance. There's so much everywhere. So why do we feel like we have so little? Um, and, according to Maslow, that's where, like, after you achieve this, that's when you start having these, like, special experiences. He said that after actualization, that's when you start experiencing things, talking about beauty. Like, before then, you start to think of beauty in a stereotypical way of what you're told to feel as beautiful and what's pretty by the media. But, at this point, you start to really see beauty, and you start to really feel beauty, and you start to, have your own aesthetic sense. You develop your own personal taste in what colors you like, what kind of things are appealing to you. And beyond that, he says that that's also when we start to really appreciate the cognitive functions that we have in our brain, our ability to solve problems, our thinking. That's when we really start thinking. Like, when we stop thinking according to what we're told to think, what the universities say, what science says, what our friends tell us to think. Instead, we start thinking for ourselves. And, that kind of thinking can be scientific and can be highly logical. It's just that we operate on and we try to solve problems. We try to figure things out. And we try to ask ourselves, is this what I really think? Is this really how things are, right? And it requires a lot of critical thinking, and it requires a lot of openness. And on top of that, all of this just adds up. All these experiences that you have when you're actualized, they also add up to a feeling of really transcendence, because people in these states, they tend to have post-actualized experiences, feeling of oneness with the world, feeling of wonder and awe. When they look around them, they are just taken aback by how amazing everything is, and they're just shocked by how amazing life is. That's what happens when you have this, like, heightened state of being. And so there are many ways and theories and models for how to understand personal growth. And most important thing to recognize is that personal growth is not a staircase. Actually, Maslow himself never said this is a staircase. This is a marketing guy that took this work from Maslow and he made a staircase. And then everyone said, oh, Maslow argues that people develop in this order. No, he said that, people can experience these states in any state of their life. And now some people argue that, in order to, for example, achieve actualization, first you need to have security, and first you need to have food on the table, and you have to have family and friends, and you have to have approval from other people, and only then can you achieve actualization. No, actually, that's not true. Viktor Frankl, in his books on existentialism, showed that you can achieve actualization even when living in awful and horrid experiences like concentration camps. He showed that there were people that lived in concentration camps that were capable of extreme courage, of individual self-expression, of moral acts that came from their own inner compass. And the truth is, when we talk about actualization, the core about it, the most beautiful thing about it is when somebody's actualized, we know they're actualized. And how do we know? Well, because they live in everything they do is an expression, an extension of themselves. When you're actualized, everyone can tell you are the author of everything that you do. They can say that every single thought this person says, everyone can say that's a typical thought of Erik, and every time people watch a video, they will tell that's an Erik Thor video, even if they don't see my face in it, even if I'm not the one narrating it. If I wrote that, if I came up with it, people can listen to it and can be like, oh, this is such an Erik video. And that's what actualization really means. It's this, whenever you write something, people can hear it, can see it in the writing, they can see it in the ideas, they can see it in the thoughts. It's essentially when you achieve the state where, everything you do is your unique, authentic expression, and you leave your personality into everything you do, from, your work in customer service, or from how you handle people to how you make your coffee in the morning. Everything is an expression of your individual, wonderful, beautiful self.